Hello everybody. We're about to get started over here, and I should really clean my tablet screen before we get started. So let me go ahead and that, and then I'm going to get started talking about, guess what? I mean, you're looking at the information right here. This is one of the pages out of Burne Hogarth's Drawing Dynamic Hands, which I have pretty much his entire library over here in these drawers. So this is a particular aspect of this that I found interesting and useful, and it's what we're going to be looking at today. So I'm going to come on down here and jump into the voice chat area. Now, of course, if you're watching this, you're watching it on YouTube because we haven't started the stream yet. So make sure you do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all of that shit. Share with your friends, all that kind of stuff. And let me jump on into the voice chat here, and we'll get started firing up the appropriate screen shares and everything. All right, so we're in the voice chat, and let me pull up screen and find the correct screen. There it is. All right, there we go. And we're live on the stream. So, obviously, since we were talking last week about hands, I'm going to be talking more about hands. And again, I'm working with a page from Burne Hogarth's Drawing Dynamic Hands. That's a great book. And this particular one, I was looking at this in particular because over the course of the week, I've been doing some looking at hands and working on hands and that sort of stuff. And the basic thing is that when you look at a hand, you can divide the hand into basically two parts. You've got the palm of the hand, and you've got the fingers, okay? And as I was looking at the fingers, I just kind of noticed, just kind of looking at it, the back of the finger is very flat. And it's kind of bowed up a little bit, typically, but the bottom is curved. And as I was looking at Hogarth's diagrams, in particular, that one right there, as I was looking at Hogarth's diagrams, I realized that what we've actually got is we've got kind of a situation like this, where this is kind of the way that the bone is constructed. And then wrapping around that, we have this kind of fleshy pad. So we've got just skin up on the top here. And then down on the bottom, we've got all this kind of fleshy, fatty tissue. There's no actual muscle in your fingers. All of the muscle is in your forearms, and that's just pulling on tendons. And I may drag in some more pictures of Hogarth's handwork, and I'll do that with the camera on my phone, because, you know, high tech and shit. But I was just kind of looking at this, and I was noticing that the back of your hand is just skin over bone and tendons. You've got your carpals underneath of there, and then up here you got your knuckles. You got these big wide knuckles, and you see kind of the ball and rod shapes that make that up. And this is how I learned to draw, like, lizards when I was in school. When I was in art class in school, drawing a lizard meant you do kind of this collar around leg, and then down here you'd have little kind of claws over here. And the thing about these claws was to just kind of arrange them behind one another, like that. Now, that's not great work or anything, but just that basic collar around there. That's kind of how these are structured too, but when you look at it, there's kind of a four-leaf clover design to the knuckle, okay? And that four-leaf clover design just kind of sits over the end of the next part of the knuckle, and the next part of the knuckle is just kind of a ball that sits in the middle of that. And from this part down to this part, you get this sort of sweeping shape where it sweeps inward and then back outward, or it gets very narrow in toward the middle, and then it widens back out toward the end of the knuckle. And actually, let me get a drawing of the skeletal structure that Hogarth has done to clarify that. And that should be very useful, because that's one of the things that I was looking at there. So let me kind of get a good picture of this. It's not going to be easy, because of the orientation of the. Okay, that is about as good as it gets. Okay. Let me drag that in. Jump through the appropriate hoops. I'll jump up here to the. I'll jump up here to the File Explorer. Jump into the right area of my camera, and then I've got to come down into my pictures folder, because I can't do anything with things when they're still on my phone. I'll go ahead and delete it, because now I've got it over here, and we'll take this, drag it down in here. We'll drag it down into the reference folder, drop it there, and for some inexplicable reason, it always comes in the wrong orientation. So let's flip that around. We'll drag that corner down, drag this over to the side, and we'll drag the other corner up. There we go. So now you can kind of see what I'm talking about with looking at the skeletal structure, and you can see that it's got this same kind of. I didn't get a good angle on this. Sorry about that. But you can see what I'm talking about here with this kind of four-leaf clover structure. Click over to my vector line. Line layer. And go back to the brush, and we're going to go take a look at that. And it's got kind of this four-leaf structure. Got this bit here that comes along the bottom, and you can see that all of them have this kind of curve, both on the bottom and the top, and every single bone kind of thins out in the middle and then widens out once it gets to the end. And you've got these little bits here that end up being in place. So you've got sort of this little knob and a little knob, and those are connected together, and then in between them you've got this long neck that widens out into another knob. It kind of does that sort of thing. And you can see that right here you've got these kind of ball shapes at the end of the knuckles, right in here, and that gives you that kind of protruding knuckle shape. And looking at just the skeletal structure of the hands, you can see that kind of, here's your knobby knuckle right there, and then you've got this narrow belly of the bone right in there, but that's fleshed out by this pad of fatty tissue that's around it. And that pad of fatty tissue goes around everything, but it's much thinner by the joints, so it's almost just there's skin over that and there's skin over that, but then in the middle there, right in this area, you've got this little fatty tissue pad that wraps around there and is just kind of wrapped around from one side to the other. So you've got this sort of plush, pillowy section on the bottom, and you've got this hard section up on the top. So when you're drawing the fingers, it's just kind of straight, curved, straight, curved, straight, curved. And then down at the bottom there, you've got knuckle, palm. Over here would be, if we're looking at a right hand, then your thumb would be there. So you'd be looking at the thumb right there. Thumb would be here, and this would be the thenar prominence. And then on the other side, you would have the hypothenar plateau. And that would go across. So you'd have sort of this situation. So this is another bit that I kind of need to here. Because this is a thing that I had to drill into my head. This was really difficult, and I'm actually going to create an image for this. Here's the thing: when you're drawing like a hand, like right here, and you've got here's your hand, and your hand is coming in, and we'll say that it's like a fist. Okay. You've got this fist coming in, and it's going to punch somebody. You've got this big wide fist, and it's in perspective, of course, because you got your thumb right here, and that's coming around, and there's the side of the hand right in here. Here's like the little stuff going on with the creases of the hand and everything. But going across this, your fingers are not the same width. If you do it like this, that does not look right. You have to do this a little bit differently. And the way you have to do it is you have to start out by going, okay, here's the middle going horizontally so you can get your perspective right. You just kind of divide it up in your 4 sections because your 4 fingers are approximately the same width. And then you want to do a diagonal line from corner to corner like that. And then there, that's going to dictate where your vertical boundaries are. And as you can see, as you get farther to the back, it's narrower. This part here, it's wider here than it is here, or here, or here. It just gets narrower and narrower as you go across. So then what you've got there is you've got your 4 knuckles up at the top. And if we go back to our vector line, here we can do our knuckles across the top. And then this is where our division between the fingers will be. And then that'll circle around there, and you've got the kind of, there's a sort of a starfish thing that goes on there. It's like a little butthole alongside the thumb. That's a great analogy. It's like a butthole next to the thumb. But that gives you that perspective, and you can see that each finger is just a little bit narrower as you go across. And you get that same thing if you're doing, like, if you've got somebody that's holding out their hand, and here's the first finger, and you've got all 4 fingers. If you've just got all 4 fingers out like this finger, you can see, has a certain width. And then the next finger is going to have less width because of the perspective. And then the next one is going to have less width still. So they have to get narrower and narrower as they go. And when you don't do that, when you make them all the same width, which is the way it feels like you should be doing it when you do that, then everything looks kind of messed up. So you have to have that perspective on the hand there. I'm not doing a great job on this. I know I'm not doing a great job on this, but hands are really, really difficult. I'm just kind of telling you, this is the stuff that I came across while I was working on this all week. But yeah, that little perspective trick, dividing it up in one dimension and then using the diagonal line to translate it over to the other dimension. That's a really, really useful perspective trick. And I'm not 100% certain. Oops. Making a mess over here. I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's covered in Marcus Mateo Meister's Framed Perspective. I think that's covered in there. I'm not 100% certain because I learned that particular trick from How to Draw Comics the Marvel way back in the 1970s. It's a really, really useful trick for getting that whole perspective thing going on. It's like you got a road going off into the distance, you want a telephone pole, and you want telephone poles going off into the distance, right? Well, as the telephone poles go off into the distance, they're going to look like they're closer together. So you have to kind of identify where those belong. And using that diagonal trick is the best way to go about that. As you can see them getting closer together as they go. Not the greatest example. I'm not a great perspective guy, but that trick really does work for getting your perspective right and getting things close together the way they're supposed to go. That's actually supposed to go there. So actually be more. But it's a really useful technique. I don't know. Maybe you'll find it useful. Maybe not. I don't know. I was looking at the general state of how the bones are laid out. How they fit together, and there's just this whole kind of, there's a disc, and there's this rod that comes out of the disc, and then there's another disc at the other end. And those discs kind of line up together, so they just kind of flare out. But they tend to flare out toward the bottom. They don't really flare out at the top very much. There's just kind of this little bow in the middle, and then that's got that pillow of fat around it for friction and gripping and that sort of stuff, for flexibility. And I've been working on that, and I've been thinking about the difference between male and female. Female hands don't have such defined knuckles, but they still have that same basic thing of the middle finger is the longest, index finger and the ring finger are about the same length, and then the little finger is substantially shorter, and the thumb line up about there, right about with the bottom of the first knuckle. So you get kind of this thing going on. That middle long. And you're doing chibis, then you just kind of go. Let's do a little thingy, sort of mitten shape. I've been drawing some chibis the past couple of weeks just because it's easy. And one of the things that I'm not particularly fond of is people they put the rounded prominence next to the thumb, and then they want to put another rounded prominence over here. Yeah, it's like they call those hand butts. Yeah, I don't like those. You don't need that. You just need the one, and then you can from that point. There's kind of a triangle that sits in here, but you can imply that triangle with the lines of the palm in there, and you don't need the little butt shape in there. This is where the fingers actually bend. And you just want to kind of keep those perspectives. The proportions are kind of interesting because it's like you got this bone, and then the next bone here, this bone is about 2/3 the length of the previous one. And then this one is 2/3 previous one. And then this one, guess what? 2/3 the previous. So you've got that kind of 2/3, 2/3, 2/3 thing going on, going all the way back. So you got the palm here, and then you've got a knuckle, and you've got another knuckle, and then you've got another knuckle, and it kind of telescopes outward. So it just kind of gets a little bit smaller as it goes each time. But you also have a kind of you have the knuckle at each area. And that's exaggerated and it also looks awful, but what can you do? I do. Pull that off of there. So what we've got is you have your hand here, and you've got your thumb here. There's that big prominent area next to the thumb. And then here, you have kind of that crease at the edge of your palm there. And that's where all of your fingers appear to start. Where they appear to start, but they actually bend here. You can see that from the side there. This is the little crease, but that's not where it bends. It bends significantly farther down. Talked about that before, actually. And then you've got kind of, here's your palm, here's the first knuckle, here's the second knuckle, and then the next finger is going to be a little longer. So everything's going to be a little bit farther along. The next finger over, well, that's going to be pretty much the same as the ring finger. And then the last one, this one, the tip ends up right about there. So it's substantially shorter. It's a lot shorter than you think it is. I'm constantly surprised by just how short it is. It's not that much farther past that first knuckle. It barely even reaches that second one. Now when you're doing this from the back, like so, you've still got the same situation with finger lengths, but you also want to put your fingernails in there. And I'm not too good with fingernails yet, but they're important. Because it's the fingernails that really give you that sense of where the hand actually is. So, let's see, there was something else I wanted to cover. Oh yeah, when you're holding something, I saw this video and somebody was like, okay, so when you hold something, okay, you draw the thing that you're holding and you put the thumb is right there, and then there's your hand, and then you put your fingers around it, and remember that you've got your different finger lengths. And I'm sorry, okay? I've been a martial artist pretty much my entire life. Nobody holds a sword like this. Nobody. Nobody holds it like that. That's not how it's held. It's held like this. It's diagonal across the palm. Let me take off my I didn't have my microphone in the right place. I apologize. Let me take off my gloves so you can actually see. That's the way a sword lies across your palm. It lies all the way up along this. That's not where the handle lies. The handle lies here. And your fingers wrap around it in a slightly different fashion because you've cocked the hand forward. Because what you don't want, if you're hitting somebody with a sword, you do not want your thumb to come down here and then angle in. You want that thumb to be in line because that is the blade as well. You want the blade to be in line with your arm. So it lies diagonally across the palm. It doesn't just sit, it doesn't sit straight. You don't hold it like this. That's not how anybody fights. That's the wrong way to fight. Do not do this. So it's very important when you got somebody that's holding a sword that the thumb wraps around right underneath of the hilt, right in here, okay? But that hilt runs down alongside and your actual arm is right here, and you're going to have some wrinkles and creases here because you've got the hand cocked forward. The hand is cocked forward so that you can hold the sword in the proper position. If you're not holding the sword in the proper position, then you can't fight effectively. And it's the same way when you're holding it with two hands. You want it running like straight down, and you want it running diagonally through the palm. You don't hold, I mean, even a knife, you don't hold a knife like this. You know, that's not how you hold a knife. You hold a knife like this, diagonally in the palm, across. You don't just have it like running directly straight up and down in the middle of your palm. That's not how anybody holds a knife. That's not right. You don't do that. You do it like this, diagonally. And it just, that frustrates me because you see people doing that and you just go, the hell is wrong with you? Why? Why are you doing this? You're not supposed to be doing it that way. I guess my volume must have been okay, or somebody would have complained. Because Katrina's actually here. She's not saying anything. Nobody said my audio was bad, so I guess my audio was okay. Although there's a possibility she's just like falling asleep in the voice chat channel. That's a possibility. But yeah, that's kind of...
Sorry to break your heart. Still awake, and your volume is good.
Okay. Was my volume good the whole time?
Yep, you're good.
All right. Fantastic. I don't have a whole lot more to talk about with hands anyway. So, but yeah, that's the stuff I've been coming up with over the course of the week. When fingers bend, okay, the bottom part kind of goes up underneath of the next part. So they crease in. As your finger bends, this part is going to push up under that one, because as this one comes down, as this joint comes down, that's going to compress, and the fleshy part of that pad is going to kind of bulge outward there and kind of fit underneath of that. And you can see the same thing going on here. You can see that kind of pushing up and under. And it's the same way it works all the way down. What else was I going to say? I don't remember. Why does that keep getting turned on? Yeah, I've been drawing a lot of fingers over the course of the week. And that's like just the thing that I've been doing. Trying to get a handle on this. Hands are the single most difficult thing to get accustomed to in this kind of artwork. Because you look at your hands all the time, and they're very complex and they're very intricate. And when you look at a hand and you go, well, that's not the way a human hand looks, that really makes a difference. So a lot of people struggle with hands literally forever. I don't think anybody ever actually likes drawing hands. So I've been investing some extra effort in them this week. Trying to get a better idea of how to render them in effective ways. But yeah, that's all I have to say in terms of sketching this week. I'm tired. I've been roaming around all day doing stuff, and I don't know. I guess I'll just cut this a little early, I think. I mean, geez, it's only been like 20, 30 minutes, but I don't know. I don't have a whole lot more to say about this. So do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notify icon, share with your friends, because nobody cares about this channel. Nobody watches it. And that's about it this week. Next week I'm going to get back to doing more stuff on the curtain call thing with Gura, and trying to take that forward a bit and get it to the next level. So yeah, that's more or less it. Okay, bye.